Hi everyone, I'm Elik. We also have a Hilik, CISO of SoFi, so it's like in Israeli, it's the same name. Before I introduce my great panelists, I just wanted to share with you why did we pick this, this discussion topic, okay? So before joining the VC ecosystem, or let's say the dark side of our industry, I had the privilege to be also a CISO, and I was a CISO of the largest financial institution in Israel, Bank Hapoalim. But this was a few years ago in the booming decade that we had in economy and in the tech industry. And it was great times to be a CISO, okay? Because my bank was doing great, the business was growing, I was growing my security budget from year to year. And it was quite, I wouldn't say it's an easy job, but I was thinking to myself and wondering what would it be if I had to sit today in the CISO chair in down cycle times, okay? When business is slowing and instead of like speaking about skill shortage, we're speaking about layoffs. Would it like affect my enterprise security program? What would be my approach for innovation? And I would say in order to find out, let's invite our panelists, okay? Because we took the smartest people in the industry, okay? And I want to invite 3 seasoned security leaders that are our CISOs, and are also involved in our ecosystem. They advise VCs, they advise startups. So let's invite Jeff Trudeau, the CIO and CISO from Chime, largest banking fintech. Thank you. Let's invite Vijaya Kaza, the CISO and head of engineering for trust and safety at Airbnb. And Ghous, CISO for Snapdocs. It's a leading digital mortgage closing platform. Thank you all for joining us. Mind the clock. Okay, so thank you for joining the panel. And you are seasoned CISOs and security leaders. You've like been around for a while, okay? I don't want to disclose anyone's age, but you've been around for a while, and you see economic cycles, you know, go up and down. And I want to ask you, and I want to find out, like, what's your experience today, okay, in the current situation, of the effect of the economic uncertainty that we are in today on enterprise leadership, okay, on boards, on senior management approach towards the security risk. Or I would put it in like a simplest word, what are the board expectations today from a CISO in a slowdown period? So Jeff, go for it.
Thank you. I would say the board's expectations don't change. I'm expected to do everything I was expected to do last year, but maybe with a smaller budget, maybe with fewer headcount, but managing the risk is the responsibility, and the expectation is we're going to do it exactly like we've done it.
Al, you can disagree if you want.
No, I mean, we're asked to do, you know, the same, if not more, with less, right? It's just a sign of the times, and I think for those of us that have been here, you know, a while, we've seen this cycle before. You know, in my situation, I've seen worse in terms of, you know, downturn and, you know, some macroeconomic, some microeconomic, some company specific. But like Jeff said, we're expected to, you know, perform and protect the company and customers. So it just comes with the territory.
Vijaya.
I was requested by the audience that we should be disagreeing with some of the comments. I try to disagree, but I can't in this case. I do have to agree that you know, most of the expectations don't change. You know, everything is under microscope and scrutiny when things are down, not just security, but you know, sales and marketing spend and administrative expenses. Everything is under scrutiny, and we are no different. That said, you know, we as CISOs have the opportunity to always stay ahead of it and show metrics as much as possible to show the ROI, so that when the question comes, it's not a, you know, uncertainty anymore, but there is clear evidence when that does happen. So it behooves us to be ahead of the problem.
Can I add one thing, though? One thing that has been different for me in this time around has been my CEO, with direction from the board, sat down with me, went through every single one of my objectives. to make sure there's alignment with the company objectives and help me prioritize our work. So, I mean, that was helpful. Otherwise, we cast too much of a wide net, and you really can't meet your current, your company goals in terms of objectives and so forth. So that was, it's a double-edged sword, because you have the scrutiny from your CEO, right, sitting down with you, prioritizing your work for you, helping you, but at the same time, you could have been doing something else that wasn't aligned with the company objectives, and so therefore, you just wasted a whole bunch of time and didn't help move the needle, right?
So I'd like to pick up on this point, and you said ROI, and we had Asaf Karen, the CISO of PayPal, in the other session, he also talked about cybersecurity ROI. So do you think that in like these times, okay, your board and senior management want to see more ROI, quantitative measures, not only qualitative measures, show me figures, show me numbers, like the marketing and the sales do? Because of we are in down cycle times, it's not like waving your hand to the board and saying we are protected from ransomware.
I'd like to take this one.
Yeah.
I am not a fan of ROI and security. I believe in risk management and in business enablement, and I present to the board on those factors, but I don't ever try to paint an ROI for what we're doing or what any individual control we use is doing. It is a slippery slope. So I have to strongly disagree.
But I want to challenge you. I wasn't asking about the CISO's opinion. We're talking now about who the CISOs report to. Okay, so when business is going well, you give your budget, and sometimes you don't meet your CEO for a year. Okay, as a CISO, I was a CISO. Okay, but when the times get tough, usually you want to see quantitative measures, and you want to see Excel charts. And not only, like slides of PowerPoint. So I'm asking about the board, okay, and the senior management and the CEO.
So can I add to what Jeff said? I don't know if I agree or disagree, but in a product-focused company, which most of us are here, cost of goods sold, COGS, or cost to serve becomes a really important factor. And so, some boards, I don't know what the percentage is, but they look at the financials, right? Because they have fiduciary responsibilities. And so they challenge the management team to reduce COGS. So how do you do that without quantifying it to some extent? So we have had to do that. And I'm sure others are doing it too. It just doesn't maybe, seem the same, right? Maybe it's disguised as something else. I don't know. But yeah, for us, we have to be able to measure how much, we've reduced. And there's a few things that I've done that kind of help us get there. Happy to talk about that, but I have experienced that.
So there's another panel on board, so I don't want to talk about the relationship between CISOs on board. We just started with it to kick off the discussion. And I'd like to switch the discussion from the prism of the CISO, okay? So now you live in your ecosystem, you understand what's going on in your business. And what measures do you take as CISOs, to optimize your enterprise cybersecurity program? So there's like a trade-off usually, everywhere, not only in cybersecurity, between effectiveness and efficiency. And if we translate it to the cybersecurity space, it's like, can you really beat the trade-off and increase your security posture, okay, but decrease cost at the same time? To me, it sounds like magic. So can you do it? How do you do it? Vijaya.
Sure. Actually, I believe that, funny enough, the measures that you have to take when things are hard and you're optimizing are ironically also the same things that will improve the effectiveness in many cases. I'll give a few examples here, but in general, from an efficiency perspective, I tend to think about it along 3 different optimization dimensions, I would say. First is on the roadmap optimizations. Second is on the team optimizations, and third is more around technology optimizations. So in each of these areas, for example, if you take roadmap optimizations, when things are tough, you're really trying to focus and make sure whatever you're working on is giving you the biggest bang for the buck, and you're actually getting very, very focused on things that matter the most. and therefore you actually improve the effectiveness of your program as well, right? For example, depending on your context for your industry, are all risks created equal? Probably not, right? Are you somebody that is frequently a target of nation-state actors? Perhaps if it's not, maybe you focus your energy elsewhere and get the basics right. So that's just an example of how you could prioritize and optimize in the event of significant economic downturn. The other two dimensions I mentioned, which is also about like team optimizations, for example. Presumably when you have economic downturn, you have fewer headcount, and so you're trying to use whatever headcount you have very wisely. And so, where do you put that headcount? Where do you, potentially investing in automation and other types of things that would give you the biggest bang for the buck again? And that also improves the effectiveness of your program, right? And finally, for technology optimizations, I would say, really focusing on build versus buy decisions, vendor consolidation, and some of the things that you look at very deeply during these kinds of times will all improve effectiveness ultimately.
Great. Al, I think. I see your body language.
Yeah, just to tail in on that a little bit in terms of, I go back to what I said earlier, do more with less. We have had to, revisit our contracts, with certain suppliers, right? Try to optimize, when things are up for renewal. I'm lucky, and Jeff can attest to this since he owns IT as well. I own IT and business systems engineering, which is SaaS. And so whenever an opportunity comes up where we could save some costs, going from one, CRM to another, I take those savings and, if I can, I apply it towards security. Since, I'm somewhat blessed to have that luxury. Otherwise, in typical organization, that's a CIO budget, right? But it happens to be my budget now. So wherever we can find opportunities like that, being creative, getting creative, right? We've done that. And and it just shows that, you're proactive and not reactive, and you're not just sitting on the sideline keeping asking for money. I know there's no money sometimes, and so we have to go find money, and to be able to, to keep the needle moving from a security hygiene perspective.
Now, we spoke about analyze the situation from the board perspective, from the CISO perspective, and I want to take the cube and look at it from the entrepreneurship perspective, okay? So we have a lot of entrepreneurs here in the audience, and they want to get with some tips because they're not running the CISO organization, okay? So there's a saying, that the greatest innovation arises from times of struggle, okay? And we are in times of struggle, okay? And usually, when you look at cybersecurity innovation, it's like a battlefield. So you have new cyber threats, you have new attack surfaces, new attack vectors, and then there comes the innovation to mitigate those attacks. But today, we spoke about the challenging problem of optimizing, okay? Optimizing the enterprise cybersecurity stack. And you were saying consolidating products, stuff like that. So my question is, can you think of other themes, innovation themes, innovation narratives that are needed in these times, okay? That are not mitigating, the new API security and new attack vectors. Who wants to jump on the question?
I can take that.
Yeah.
So again, tying it back to the economic times, I think everybody's top priority is productivity and how do we reduce operational burden, right? Because doing more with less. So one of the innovation that I think would be very helpful, and I've seen actually a lot of companies talk about this, thankfully, as well, is themes around no-code, low-code type of automation that is possible to reduce operational burden in several ways, right? Whether it's security specific or more broadly in terms of cloud operations, either way. So that's one big category, I would say. And then also, similar to those, anything to do with governance as a code and other types of things where, again, automation is the big theme there. Workflows around permissions and how do you actually keep track of permissions and making all of that simpler to, again, reduce operational burden. So that's one major theme, I would say. The second thing is more about you have a set of controls that you have invested in, and specifically around this economic downturn, again, how do you make sure you're getting the most out of those controls? So anything that will help you assess effectiveness of those controls by comparing them to standard frameworks or what have you, that would be very helpful. And also just identifying gaps in your posture. You know, there are many types of posture assessment companies that I've heard today as well. It could be SaaS posture or data security posture, different types of things, cloud configurations. Those are all super helpful, especially in these times.
Yes, I think it resonates with your other answer on team optimization, like process automation makes out of your team.
Exactly.
Like more, and it's interesting to talk about consolidation, but Jeff, I'd like to hear your take on this, like different narrative.
Do you agree, Jeff?
I totally disagree with. No, I'm kidding. No, I mean, I think what you said makes a lot of sense. It's basically a combination of things: automation, self-service, enable, the engineering team to do the right thing themselves, as well as frameworks to make it. We want to make it easier for them to do the right thing, rather than have to tell them what's the right thing and what's the wrong thing. Is make it where it's easier for them to do the right thing, and it's harder to do the wrong thing, so that we don't have to babysit that.
No, Vijaya, you were saying that like you're checking, consolidating your vendors, or maybe Al was saying it, yeah. And we all know we are a part of this industry that we are like hyper fragmented, with products. We have dozens of product categories, okay? And each category, you double click it, you get like, take AppSec, okay? I love AppSec, okay? But you have Dust, SAST, IAST, we're out of acronyms, okay? We moved from 3-letter acronyms to 4-letter acronyms. And what I was thinking, and that will this economic downturn like push the cybersecurity industry into consolidation? And it's very important for our early stage entrepreneurs to know that, because they can come with, the best of breed feature product, or they can come with, a wider product offering, okay? So are you looking to consolidate your products, like one product for SaaS security? I don't want 4.
So what I'm focused on right now is taking a look at the existing environment and identifying anything that is legacy. I inherited a lot of things, as some of us have done moving into a new company. I've been there now about a little over a year. But we still have some legacy tools from very large software, security software companies that I'm not very fond of because it either doesn't provide us enough capabilities, coverage, or effectiveness. And so that's ripe for me to go out and look at, other innovative ideas and bring new ways of doing things, to the program. And so I've been doing that quite a bit, and that's been paying dividends. In terms of consolidation, sure. My recommendation is to not build just a feature. Look, the reality is, to be frank, a lot of founders have a template, especially the serial entrepreneurs. They have a template, and they follow that template every time. Some want to go become the next unicorn. That's fine. Others want a quick exit, and they build for that. But as a practitioner, that's not what I want. I don't want a feature, right? I don't want a product that's a feature set of another product or a platform. Not looking for the next big 800-pound gorilla in the room, but at the same time, I do want to be able to consolidate as much as I can. If it has to do with SaaS or product security or API security, I like to maybe take care of build and runtime at the same time if possible. It's not a big ask, I think. But the reality is, it is what it is. And so so it's tough to navigate, but I just want to make sure that I have a fiduciary responsibility within the company. I want to spend my money wisely, so the biggest bang I can get for the buck is what I go after, and that's having more capabilities in a platform than just one feature.
And that's true regardless of the economic conditions, right?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
anytime. But even more important now, because I don't have the money to go buy 5 different tools to address 3 problems.
Yeah, I think it's a great takeaway for the entrepreneurs in the crowd. But they have to need enough runway, from the financial perspective, in order to develop all these features and wide product you're looking for. And This is what's, pushed me forward to the next question. The economic downturn has another perspective, okay, in the early stage VCs, okay, and we are in early stage investors, and, the companies raised their seed round, and they, prepared an execution program, okay, that changes all the time with reality, and you have a burn rate, but now you understand that the economic situation is different, okay, and investors are, a little bit waiting for things to stable, and then you want to have a longer burn rate, okay, and you start talking about operational efficiency and stuff like that. So the financial stability of early stage startups, okay, it becomes a challenge. So my question is I know you all, and you're all in favor of innovation, and you see a lot of early stage startups, and sometimes you're design partners for early stage startups, but now in the down cycle, do you change your strategy, for adopting early stage startups? Do you look at their economic stability? Who invested in the startup, okay? Is it backing them? A long question.
I think that's a long question. That's very true. I think the early stage startups are actually still really good for us because if you're a design partner, you're probably not paying top dollar as if you're going to Palo Alto for something. We're not looking so closely at the economic stability of the company. We want to make sure that they're going to be in business for a couple of years, but I think that really there's a lot of opportunity there as long as it's meeting a need. We're definitely going to start focusing on what are the needs of the security program versus the wants and the nice to haves. We're also going to look at how much operational support, how many headcount is it going to cost me to deploy this solution versus, is this actually going to save headcount? Is this going to automate something so that I can put my limited resources and dollars on other problems? So that's more going to be my focus area.
I disagree. In the sense that I think sometimes it makes sense to rip and replace right away. For various reasons. Maybe it might be economic, might be features, whatever the case. So in this day and age, I actually look forward to working with startups because I know if they're not too sticky, I think you all know what I mean by that. If they're not a sticky solution or platform or technology, then it's easy for me to rip and replace. And I've done that because something hasn't worked out. Is engaging in a relationship with somebody and they didn't live up to what we agreed to in the MSA, and so it's easy for me to say, sorry, I have some legal backing, I'm going to rip and replace with something else, and I have done that in the past. But I tend not to do that too often, but in this day and age, when you have so much overlap and so much promise in terms of here's my roadmap, here's what I can offer, here's what we're doing, and it doesn't pan out, or there's no economic viability from the company's perspective, they're having hard times, so you don't have a choice but to rip and replace. And all I'm saying is that it's okay to do that in the right time.
Yeah, you can talk about after the panel later. So we have 2 more minutes, and I'd like to raise a question concerning cyber insurance and the situation, and one of you will have to hop on it because we don't have a lot of time. So you're all familiar with cyber insurance and the maturing industry, okay? And we have this offers from the carriers today. And what I'm trying to figure out is in this economic times, is it a good strategy for an enterprise to say, okay, I'm investing in my security team, I'm investing in my security controls, but I would also invest in security insurance and maybe balance it and look at my enterprise cybersecurity as a residual risk covered by insurance, and the main risk covered with controls. Okay, it's for the insurtech guys here and founders.
So definitely, absolutely. I think we all have to be looking at cyber insurance as a compensating control for the fact that we're not going to have controls for everything, and you can never have 100% effective controls. So absolutely, I would always rely on cyber insurance as an additional control.
But I'll challenge you. Would you take your cyber insurance control policy and increase it and decrease your investments in tech or in team?
No.
Because we can do it both.
Well, you have
As a CIO, not as a CISO.
you have certain obligations. So when maybe it's industry specific, I don't know, but I think Jeff, you see this in your MSAs with your customers. You have to have a certain limit in terms of your certain coverage and certain limits in your cyber insurance, or they just won't do business with you. So for some companies like myself and maybe Jeff, and maybe you guys are the same, I don't know, you don't have a choice but to have it and to have specific limits and coverage.
Yeah, I don't actually think you'd save any money. If you have less security controls, they're going to raise the premium on you. So you have to have a great security program to keep the cost of the cyber insurance as low as possible. So.
Okay, we didn't crack it, but we are out of time, and I want to thank you, our panelists. You can give them some applause. And I really hope that the next time we meet and do a discussion like this, it will be on CISOs in upcycle times and expansion times and not in recession times.
Amen to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.